Hey, let's take a look at your midterm review. Let's start with, this is problem number 5. And let's take a look at your work. The first thing you do, I notice, is when you move 9 over 2v to the other side, is you don't add. The opposite of adding is subtracting. The other thing is you lost your v. Let's approach this a problem maybe a little bit different way to try to help you out here. I look at my denominators. My common denominator is 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each term, I'm going to multiply it by 8. Each term is separated by a plus sign, a minus sign, or in this case, our inequality. Notice 2 goes into 8 4 times. So 4 times negative 3v, well, that's going to be negative 12v. Put it up here. Negative 8 times 2 is minus 16. Is less than or equal to, we'll do the same thing again, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So we'll take 4 times 9v, and that'll be 36v. And then the 8s, they just reduce, don't they? So we'll get plus 7. Now let's do what you were doing, except I think it'll be a little bit easier now. Let's subtract 36v from both sides. But let's make sure we subtract, because it's positive 36v. So we're going to subtract 36v from both sides. Well, then we get negative 48v minus 16 is less, well, I forgot my line under it, is less than or equal to, I'm going to rewrite that. It doesn't look very nice. A little close. And notice 36v minus 36v, that's 7. Then we'll add 16 to both sides. Because the opposite of subtracting is adding. And then we're going to get negative 48v, bring that down, is less than or equal to 16 plus 7 is 23. Finally, we divide by negative 48. When you divide both sides of an inequality by a negative, we got to flip the sign, so I'm going to do that before I forget. So it's greater than or equal to, so v is greater than or equal to negative 23 over 48. One of the few questions you did on this midterm where I didn't quite understand what you were doing, but you did show your work for at least part of it there. Now if we take a look at this one, the next question. You didn't show any work on this one, but I didn't really expect you to show any work because you can see it, at least part of it, from here. The y-intercept is when x is 0. You didn't have to do any work on that part. The y-intercept is 4. I think you had that part wrong. Now, let's pick 2 points. I like 0, 1 and 4, 6. Because remember, slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to subtract my 2 y's. The order you do it doesn't matter, but I'm going to go 6 minus 4. The order you subtract your y's, you have to subtract the x's in the same order. Now, the reason I picked 0 is nice things happen when around 0. 6 minus 4 is 2 over 1, so your slope is 2. You had the equation right based on your incorrect answers for slope and y-intercept. It's 2x plus 4. In this case, it should put an equation. The equation has an equal sign. Y equals 2x plus 4 is what we needed for that one. Let's take a look at this one. Negative 8 is less than or equal to 6x minus 2. You correctly added 2 to both sides, but negative 8 plus 2 is not negative 4. I think your brain went to dividing. Negative 8 plus 2 should be negative 6, which is less than or equal to 6x, because your 2's cancel out. Now You correctly divided both sides by 6. So we have -1 is less than or equal to x. If you type that in, that'll be correct. You also could put x on the left-hand side, so you flip it back, and you get x is greater than equal to -1. Either one of these is correct. You don't need to do both. Whatever one you want to do, or the one you have to type in. Now if we take a look at the next one, I want you to find the slope and the y-intercept and then graph the line. You just made a mistake on the equation. You add 6x to both sides, but then notice there's a -3 here. So you have to divide everything by a -3. And when you do that, you're going to get y equals 6 divided by -3 is -2x. And you can leave it as -6 over 3x. I'm fine with that. And then a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So when you graphed your line, you had the y-intercept incorrect. So let's review this line right here. I think you had the slope right based on what you had. And I just want to back up. Yeah, we had a +6 here. It kind of looks like you have a negative there. So we go up 1, and that's your y-intercept. We're going to go down 2 and over 1. That'll be your second point. Then draw a line going through those. And hopefully your line goes through both the points. That's a nice thing about the computer. On this question, it's kind of frustrating because you got the second part right. That is, you know how many copies she sells, but you wrote the equation wrong. So let's P represent her total pay in dollars and N represent the number of copies of Mathis Fun she sells. You did it correctly. So we're going to say, oh, the total pay, P, equals, and we're going to make $120 for every additional copy of Mathis Fun she sells. So that'll be 120 times N. You didn't have an equation. That was the big thing too. You have to have an equation that has an equal sign. And I know you knew that because you took 28 times 120. Then you add on her initial amount that she gets paid no matter what. So her base salary is $2,300. You might have written it with the $2,300 first, but the N has to go with the 120. So you could have one or the other. Either is correct when you do your redo. This one is kind of frustrating because you did most of the work correct. You substituted in. Now the question is 3 less than 21? Less than or equal to? Well, it's to the left of the number line, so this is true. So when you substitute 2 in, that should have been a solution. You just had them all backwards, I think. When you did -7, is -51 less than or equal to 21? Sure it is, because it's left of the number line. So that one should have been true. Let's take a look at 5. Is 21 less than or equal to 21? Well, 21 equals 21, so that's true. So that should have been a solution. You had that part right. If we put in 10, is 51 less than or equal to 21? Well, that answer is no. That's false. Since it's false, because it's to the 51 is to the right of the number line, that should have been, that is not a solution. So you just kind of had it backwards there. On this question, you didn't have any work, so I couldn't really help you. Well, I couldn't, when I say help you, I couldn't see where you did wrong. But I have a feeling I know what you did wrong. On this one, we want to get rid of the 118, so it's positive 118, so you subtract 118 from both sides, and you did that correct. I think this is where you made the mistake, though. It's negative W equals, and 281 minus 118, well, let me see, 11 minus 8 is 3. 7 minus 1 is 6, and 2 minus 1 is 1. You put positive 163, but notice it's negative w, so we want to divide both sides by a negative 1. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, so you get y equals negative 163. And there's that solution. On this problem, a function is predictable. So if I say lake, there's only one answer, which is 8. If I say paper, there's only one answer, which is 3. If I say sun, there's only one answer, which is 3. If I see leaf, there's only one answer, is 8. It doesn't matter that 2 arrows go to 3. They're predictable. So this one should have been a function. I think that's one of the parts you got wrong. We look at the next one. I think you had this one right because I think you said this is a function. 8 is predictable, goes to negative 8. 3 is predictable, goes to 6. Negative 2 is predictable, goes to 8. 9 is predictable, goes to negative 6. 2 is predictable, goes to 5. So this one is also a function. On the next one, t, it doesn't, notice, if I say t, it's not predictable because the answer could be u or it could be s, in this case, or x or t again. So it's not predictable, so this is not a function. If we look at the last one, negative 3, 5, 9, negative 2. All your inputs are different, so it must be a function. The only way it will not be a function is if the inputs repeat like they did in relation 3. And if they repeat, the y's, or the dependent variables, have to repeat, and they don't in this case. On this one, we want to graph u greater than or equal to 6. Remember, absolute value of u, when it's greater than or equal to, that means or. So we're looking at numbers that are farther away from 6 than from 0. They're 6 away from 0. And when it happens, it's u is greater than or equal to 6, or u is less than or equal to negative 6, because we're going to the left on the number line. You have to do 2 of them. So here's negative 6. Here's positive 6. It was greater than or equal to, so we'll fill in the circles. We're going further away from 0. If I put 0 on my number line, it might be easier to see. So I'm going to shade to the right, and I'm going to shade to the left, or usually goes in opposite directions. Not always, but sometimes, in this case, it can. On this question, the graph is correct, which tells me you know how to do this, but you just wrote it down wrong, because it has to be an equation. C needs to be the total cost. You're not multiplying it by C. And how much are you paying? Well, you're paying $5,600 to rent the truck. Not 5,600 times, and I didn't leave myself enough room here, so I'm going to move this down here. So you're paying $5,600, plus you're paying an additional $200 per ton, and they want to use S. And I know you know that because you said the y-intercept is 5,600, and when you add a ton, you get 5,800, and that's the correct graph. So just kind of frustrated on this one that you didn't write the equation correct, because you didn't write an equation. If we take a look at this problem, we have one mistake on here. Actually, we have 2 mistakes when I see it now. It's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. These 2 should have been subtraction signs. It's only a positive if you're subtracting a negative. In this case, you're subtracting 8 and 6. So let's just do this. I think I'm going to do it on your paper here. So we're going to say y minus 6. That makes it kind of hard to read, doesn't it? Let me use a lighter color here. So we're going to say y minus 6 equals negative 3/4 times x minus 8. Now if I follow your same work you did, y minus 6 equals distribute. We get negative 3/4 x plus 6, because 4 goes in 8. 2 times 3 is 6. Now we're going to multiply by 4 like you did for everything, so you're getting this down. So we get 4y minus 24 equals negative 3x plus 24. Well, let's add 3x to both sides like you did. So we get 3x plus 4y minus 24 equals a positive 24. Add 24 to both sides, and you get 3x plus 4y equals 48. And there's your answer for that. Last question. Hopefully it was a careless error. -1. Because you graphed -6, +1 is what you did. So -6, -1 should have been, let me change the colors again, right here. And you've got it. And then you're done. So at this point, the midterm will be open for you. So go back in the midterm and redo it. And then take a picture of your work when you're done and submit it to Schoology.